Hi, this is Vicente Cruz, Oakland Green Party, Oakland Greens, Alameda County Greens, SaintABE report. And today we're going to be interviewing Shanthi Gonzales, who is running for school board in District 6, in our beloved District 6. And it's very, very short questions, just something to get information out there for all of you, so you can make your decisions. Again, you know me, vote local. It's so good. I understand that a lot of you are cynical, but it is so important to vote local, and I've already met with her, and this is someone who's definitely winning me over. So how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So we're going to start with just the first question, and very simple. Why do you want to be a school board member?
Yeah, great question. You know, one thing I'm observing so I've been precinct walking since April, and I've had lots of conversations with voters, thousands of voters at this point. And one thing I'm hearing over and over is that the district has not communicated well with the community about what's going on with education in Oakland. So, for example, people are confused about why the schools are constantly changing names, and why there are many schools within one campus, or, you know, what is a charter school and how do they get their children into a charter school. And so I'm just observing, first of all, that there just hasn't been a lot of communication or transparency about what's going on with schools, and that's something I have a really strong value around. And so, for example, one of the things I want to do when I'm on the school board is I want to have regular office hours, so that posted on my website, everybody knows where they can find me and ask their questions. And, you know, I'm not a parent yet, and so you don't have to be a parent to know that what's going on with the schools in Oakland affects all of us in the community. And the quality of education that we are offering to students affects all of us. So that's definitely one of the things that I want to really focus on, is having an ongoing, transparent conversation with families and other people in Oakland about what's going on with the schools. And I feel really strongly that that's something that's missing right now with our current incumbent. So that's one thing. The other thing is that, you know, the education in Oakland is related to everything else that we want, right? So we all know that all the conversation in Oakland right now is about safety and cops and all that stuff. But I believe that, you know, education, providing good education to people, is a critical strategy for addressing safety.
Yes.
Because if we're not giving people a good education, they don't have any opportunities. And so, you know, one of the reasons we have so many problems in Oakland is that people don't have good alternatives to crime. If they need to support their children and their families, what are their alternatives? So I think it's a critical way, education, that we can address all the things we want. So we all want Oakland to be safe, and we all want Oakland to be prosperous, and we all want our kids to have opportunities. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that every child in every community in Oakland has a good school. So we've got some great schools in Oakland. Part of my job on the school board is to tell the stories of those schools. Another thing I'm hearing from parents is they don't know what are the good schools in their neighborhood. And so we got to tell the stories of those good schools, and then we got to make sure that every neighborhood has a good school.
Nice, nice. And our next question is, why do you think that you would be a good school board member?
Yeah. Well, my background is in labor and community organizing. So I've spent most of my career organizing home care workers. This was for SEIU, United Healthcare Workers. Mm-hmm. And before that, I spent 6 years as a volunteer with Californians for Justice while I was in high school and college. And I worked on a living wage campaign. I worked on the No on Proposition 187 campaign. And I also worked on the No on Proposition 209 campaign. And when I look at what's happening in Oakland right now with education, what I really see a strong need for an organizer. So, for example, we are on our 8th superintendent in 12 years. And what happens in that kind of situation where there's constantly changing of the guard is that all the power in the district, as far as I can tell, really resides with these district executives, because they are the constant. When the school board changes every 2 years, and the superintendent changes sometimes even more frequently than that. But I don't believe that we can really hold the district accountable for providing good education unless parents and schools are organized. Because parents have to have a shared vision for the kind of school that they're trying to build for their children. And they have to have the support of the teachers and the administrator at that school. And so what organizers do is we give people the tools and the capacity to solve their own problems. And so what I want to do is work with the schools in my district to solve their own problems, to build their capacity, their leadership capacity, to address the problems that they see in their school, and so that they can hold the district accountable for providing a high level of education. And then I want to organize the other people on the school board around a much narrower vision, a much narrower set of priorities, and we got to shift that power back from the district executive to the board and to people on school sites. Otherwise, I'm not convinced that we can actually make any change. because, people who work for the district, there's some really great people who work there, and some people who have their own agenda and their own ideas about what we should be doing. But if you're on the school board, you've been elected by the community to be the person who's leading, so they need to provide some leadership, and I want to help the board do that.
Right, that's interesting you say that. Back in 2012, Don McClay, who has run for mayor and city council, when someone asked him that same question, what are you going to do when you're up there? He's like, well, if I'm the only, people before profit candidate on there, absolutely nothing, because all we'll be doing is having the conversation, but you won't have anyone to second anything too. So that I like the way that came out. Our next question, are you looking forward to actually debating other candidates on the issues?
This is my first time running for office, so it's all been a big learning experience, and so I'm looking forward to learning what that is like, and I'm certain that's going to be mortifying to see myself on video. Probably this will be mortifying too.
Right.
But, I know I'm going to learn. And for me, learning is the whole point of everything that I do in life. I really, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that experience is like, learning as much as I can from it. I'm looking forward to sharing my ideas with voters. So I think that part is going to be great. Yes and no.
Okay, that's fine. What are your thoughts on civil disobedience as a tactic in reference to the struggle for equal quality education?
Yeah. I think civil disobedience is a really important tool in any organizer's toolbox. When I was working for SEIU United Healthcare Workers, some of our members and some staff of the union engaged in civil disobedience to try and get some of our employers to bargain in good faith. There's not that many tools left to the labor movement in particular. And so we have to use every tool in our toolbox. And then, civil disobedience is part of a tradition of some of our most revered leaders, Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King. And, it's free speech, right, in action. I'm a big proponent of civil liberties and the First Amendment in particular. In a democracy, we have to... we have to use the tools that we have to try and make change, and so I definitely am a supporter of the use of civil disobedience.
And actually, ironically, it's funny because even the more militant Malcolm X and the Black Power movements and the Black Panthers, Stokely Carmichael, they actually even use civil disobedience and said, well, it wasn't always about looking, all we see is them with the guns, but they forget about the schools and the free lunches.
That started here in
breakfast
Oakland.
Programs and also, and then again, taking over public buildings, Occupy Me, that's nothing new. That's good. And then our last one here is, how would you promote healthy food within not just your district, but the whole?
So I'm excited about the new central kitchen. I don't know if you've had the time to speak with Jennifer Labar. Okay. So it's going to have a huge component that is about bringing the kids in to learn about food and agriculture, and so that they can grow some of the food that is eaten, that's consumed in the schools. So I think that's really great because I think if we can get kids involved in growing the food, then they'll be more excited about eating healthy food. So I think a lot of kids in Oakland, unfortunately are eating a lot of processed foods. And, we know that we have a lot of kids in Oakland who have some behavioral issues, and I'm really convinced that it's partly because they're not getting nutritious, balanced food, and it's partly because some schools have been eliminating PE, after school sports, these sorts of things that are normal ways that kids can blow off their steam. And so both of those things I think are really important to healthy food and making sure kids are getting enough physical activity. So I'm excited about the work that's going on there. The question is, how do we scale that? I would like to see more schools have community gardens. Some do, like I know Melrose Leadership Academy has some gardening going on there. I'd like to see more of that. And then the question is, how do we prioritize that relative to everything else that we're trying to do with the schools, and have a steady person available to help children do this, so that it's not enough to have it once a year or at a couple schools. Like, we really have to give these opportunities to everybody. And one of my observations as I've been going around to visit the schools is that opportunities just are not evenly distributed in Oakland, because different schools have the ability to fundraise for specific programs. So we got to figure out, okay, if we know that some schools in the hills are going to be able to have the parents fundraise for a gardener or something, how do we make sure that we write a grant or something so that the kids in the Flatland schools get that too?
Yeah, no, that's so interesting, and I hope you keep that definitely as a super top priority, because it is very true, what you said, that it's part of the issues that we're having inside of the schools, aside from the no athletes or no arts even or woodshop or anything like that, is that not eating healthy food. I can tell you when I taught at Parker Elementary, and at kindergarten recess in the morning, the teacher came and was like, oh, and you get the right of Johnny, is having a really, really bad day. And so I'm sitting there and I noticed, Johnny's having a hard time paying attention, but in my head I clicked, what did you have for breakfast? So then he came up with 3 bowls of Fruit Loops, got to school and had French toast, and then drank 3 things of the syrup. It's like, oh, well, you're not having a bad day. You're jacked up. Boy, wait till about 1 or 2 o'clock today and the crash comes. Like, you're going to be asleep in class. So I really I love to hear that from you. And I know that the only maybe 1,000 people who watch my videos and stuff are on that same page. A lot of times when I do these questions too, it's from comments, or just talking to people at the farmers market and things too. And really also in the flats, like I even talk to the guys that are in, when you're at my house, the guys at the front, and seeing where their minds are on education. Because also ironically, if you talk to those guys on the block, most of them don't want that same life for their kids.
Yeah.
They really, really don't.
Yeah.
So it's really incredible. So I really thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll look forward to getting your questionnaire too. I said the Queens up that too. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
And Shanthi Gonzales, School Board District 6. Remember to vote. All right.